Hello and welcome to Exit Only Theater Podcast. I'm JP Leigh. In front of me is...
Silence.
This is a Jesus this time. Last episode he said Jesus.
Yes. No, I'm Adrian Alderete. Thank you guys for joining us on behalf of both of us.
Absolutely. We just wanted to take a short episode.
Over.
It's sort
the
of the
shortest episode ever.
Yes, and this may be for the best of everyone. But we wanted to do a little bit of an intervention, so to speak, because one of, arguably, an actor that we grew up with, I don't know if he was necessarily in our favorite films of all time growing up, but he definitely was important in the films we saw when we were kids.
Yeah. Is
kind of falling off the rails.
And who is
creatively. Mr. Adam Sandler.
Boom!
Obviously, as you guys know, his latest film, Pixels,
Boom!
Underperformed at the box office.
God!
It did, I think it was like 24 million, something to that effect. Which
I want to kick those people's asses, man. Who buys it?
You'd be surprised. His films performed very well on DVD release. I'm not quite sure why, which could explain why he has a four film deal with Netflix coming up. But we wanted to just take a moment with the fact that Pixels is underperformed. It's the latest in his...
Failures? You could say failures.
Failures, yeah. I feel like the last 5 to 6 years, he's really gone out of his way to make films that are not good. They perform fairly well at the box office. By fairly well, I mean... They're comedies that most families can go see, so they go see them. Yeah. But the mistake he made in this one is it's PG-13, so some families didn't go see this movie, which is probably explained by what the numbers were. But we didn't want to make a discussion about Pixels because neither of us wanted to see it. Yes. If you want to see a film like that, go see the short on YouTube that the film is based off of. It's 4 minutes, and you'll get a much better version of what happens. But we wanted to talk about, just very quickly... What's going on with Adam Sandler's career? Yeah. Is he at a precipice? Has he already crossed the line? Is it him? Is it his brand of comedy? There's just so many conversations we could be having. The first thing I want to ask is it that Adam Sandler has fallen behind, or is it that his comedy has evolved for the worse? Is it that he hasn't changed, or that he's changed for the worse, is my question.
I'm going to say this, and I'm going to answer it in a way that maybe when you really analyze his work... Mm-hmm. Like, aside from his really dramatic stuff. Yeah. Let's be real here. Like, Billy Madison, Happy Gilmore, Big Daddy, You Don't Mess with the Zohan, Grown Ups. Let's be real here. Has his comedy ever really changed? Has it ever really evolved? Like, you can make the argument, oh, Click was a really grounded film. Big Daddy, oh, really grounded film. But it was, by and large, it was also very stupid. Like, and that's the thing, like, yeah, they're enjoyable stupid. Mm-hmm. But, like, I think it's a point now where... I think everybody's kind of... I hope everybody's wising up and just saying, look, we're kind of done with you, man. Like, and you know what? It's no fault of his. If you go to see his movie, he's going to keep making movies he wants to make. So I'm not blaming Adam Sandler. I think it's about time that we're like, you know what? Man, it was fun when we were, Billy Madison it out, whatever. But nowadays I'm like, dude, thank you for your contributions to... whatnot, but I think people have moved on. I don't think the films have gotten worse. I just think people have moved on because his comedy has not changed.
I disagree.
Why?
Why? Okay, so we give him credit for making likable movies back in the 90s. Where we give him credit for that, I have to give him the responsibility of messing up his recent films. I can't just say like, oh, thanks for the good times. This ship has sailed. Go spend your money. I can't do that because he's still expecting people to go see these movies. So if you're expecting people to like them, you have to expect the critics to tell you stop.
I think the studios are expecting money. This is the thing. This is the thing. If someone, let's say for me, I'm only gonna make 80s style action movies, and people keep giving me money to make 80s style action movies. Are you gonna blame me for making it, or the studio for giving me money to do it?
I will blame you if you get lazy on the kind of action movie you make. If you're making good movies for the first 10 years of your career, and then you're just, like, expecting the payroll and then making crap, I'm gonna blame you. Like, yeah, the studio's paying you, but, like, you have a responsibility as a creative personality to not wet the bed when you make the movie.
I think it's good. The one thing, like, with that answer, I think it's good that I think audiences now are speaking through their wallets, saying, "Hey, we're not going to spend money on this stuff anymore. Mm-hmm. We're not going to look, Adam Sandler there was a time where we found him funny. You know, I'm not gonna lie. I like Billy Madison. I enjoy Happy Gilmore. Mm-hmm. I think Big Daddy's a decent film. I think 50 First Dates is a very underrated film. Yeah. But that being said, I think finally we're kind of just like, look, man, you know, you're not. It's not that he's not evolving. It's just that's what he does. And that's who he is, and he's not gonna change that. He's been that way since Saturday Night Live.
I agree, but his comedy has changed enough that it has become distasteful to people. I think when he was starting his career, yes, he was the slacker, he was the goofball, the frat boy humor was still there, but there was a tenderness and there was a likability about him that balanced that out. You know, he was angry a lot in Happy Gilmore, but a lot of what he was doing in the movie was to help his grandmother. And there is a respect paid to that side of the story that makes the rest of it work. Yeah. His recent films don't even care about trying to do that. He's almost he's like a lazy bully in a lot of the movies he's playing in now, that it's just it's not appealing to watch, and it doesn't, that brand of comedy, if you're not going to try to make me laugh, I'm not going to humor you by laughing at the stuff that just doesn't work. It's almost offensive to make me think that just stupid, oh, girls are icky jokes, or just humor that you've rehashed from the other grown-ups films with your buddies. I'm not gonna laugh at that. You had your friends in your previous films, in your early films, and it worked. You had these quirky characters that balanced each other. Big Daddy had heart. Happy Gilmore had heart. Billy Madison maybe was less so. Waterboy, I mean, he had just this weird obsession with pleasing his mama. Those things worked. Wedding Singer, I think, is his best film. Yeah. Those things were 50 First Dates was okay. There are moments that work in a lot of his movies. I just think that the stuff he used to do in those, he doesn't care about doing in these. Yeah. Because now, like you said, to a certain extent, the studio's giving the money regardless. But it's on you to make those films better. You should have enough respect as an actor to say, no, I'm not gonna... You don't have to go make Punch Drunk Love 10 times. Yeah. Yes, Spanglish didn't work out the way you wanted it to, but that doesn't mean you just run away from making films that are good.
Yeah, but I think those are outliers, just because those he was approached to make.
They didn't have to be, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I see what you mean, but
they didn't have to be.
He never had a hand in actually making those. Yeah, he starred in them, but Paul Thomas Anderson said, "Hey, I want to cast you for Punch Drunk Love."
Oh, yes.
And he must have had some amazing pitch, because he convinced him to do it, even though he doesn't do it now.
And PTA says it's a comedy, so he asked a comedian at the height of his game to do a comedy, which isn't exactly a stretch. The film ends up being a stretch in terms of the genre, but
yeah, it's a different. It's not a dark comedy, but it's a comedy in the definition, not necessarily the way a lot of people know it now. Where they think comedy, they think Adam Sandler, Pixels.
It's comedy in the Shakespearean sense, in that it's not a tragedy, but it's comedy. And I think that what worked for him, and to a certain extent, yes, he hasn't changed that much. Mm-hmm. He's just done the same stuff lazier. He just needs to get his shit together. Yeah. And I've been wanting to say that for since we started the podcast. I was I want to do a fourth wall where I just tell Adam Sandler, come on, man.
I want you to go to town, because this is the thing. For me, you've heard my argument. Look, this is who he is. And the same thing I'm saying about Will Ferrell. Will Ferrell's getting to that point now where it's we get who you are now comedically. Yeah, he does take a little bit more chances with Adam McKay, doing some kind of subtle nods at society and whatnot. Right. Obviously, with the other guys, he took the jab at the financial situation that the United States is in right now. That being said, I'm also throwing him in that category. It's look, dude,
he's starting to do the same thing.
Yeah, because you watch the Casa de Mi Padre, where he spoke Spanish, but it fell flat. Yeah. He seemed obviously he was everybody else. The entire movie was just garbage. I'm that's the thing. It wasn't funny.
But that man-child humor that he was so successful. I'm talking about Will Ferrell. That he was so successful in doing in 2003, 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe until the last couple of years that it started to kind of lose its rhythm. Yeah. He came out and just exploded onto the scene in the middle of Adam Sandler's career. You know, I mean, they both had this SNL run, but Adam Sandler made the jump to movies earlier, so he had this great run, and then Will Ferrell was I'm going to do the man-child thing too, and it was almost as if Adam Sandler's performances were so rudimentary compared to the stuff that Will Ferrell was doing. Will Ferrell looked like he was doing this existential, crazy performance in things like Old School and stuff, compared to what Adam Sandler had started doing at that point. So it's you have those juxtapositions. That's the first stage of Adam Sandler not doing what he needs to do. Yeah. He needed to evolve to that next level. Then you have someone like Judd Apatow, which he was friends with. He's worked with on several projects beforehand. Yeah. Who is doing comedy?
Yeah, they're actually like best friends. Yeah, because they came up at the same time. I think they went to NYU at the same time.
I think they were roommates, and I think he didn't. Not that he had to do the exact same brand of humor that Judd Apatow did, but that's where comedy has evolved now. It has evolved to raunchy with a heart as opposed to just sophomoric with a heart. You know, you can be sophomoric, but there has to be. There's a level of. Honestly, I think there's a level of sophistication in the way that things have gotten raunchier because people's standards for stuff have been raised. We're a little desensitized to just like, you know, stupid. Not that Three Stooges humor isn't great, but like those. But
that tank too. Like, let's be real.
That's true too.
Yeah,
that
I think that brand. No, I agree. I think you're right that brand of humor is kind of slowly dying away now. Where it
needs to be minor. If
kind of, I would say it's like. I know this is gonna be really weird to define, but kind of like bully humor. Like imagine like remember what like bullies were captured in doing in film like in the 80s and stuff like that. They would like make fart noises next to the girl and giggle and all that stuff, or they would have the whoopee cushion, or they would push somebody into a locker and they think it'd be funny. That's Adam Sandler funny. And so I think I think you're right. The times are changing. I think they're kind of people are like and I think 21 Jump Street makes fun of that where they're like. Hey,
exactly.
Hey,
Channing Tatum's character is Adam Sandler.
That's a great point. Yeah.
Doyle rules. Like that humor is exactly what Channing Tatum does in 21 Jump Street, and everyone's like, "Stop! That is not the world we live in anymore." That's not the world we live in.
It's like, "What's up, bro? You don't like the Earth, man." He's like, "I don't care, man." Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I see what you mean now. Where it's better developed. 21 Jump Street makes fun of itself, but does it in a way where it still invests in the story first and lets the situations be funny rather than just, hey, we're just going to make an hour-long collection of stupid skits like Movie 43.
That's, to me, Movie 43 and like Grown Ups, there's nothing really differentiating other than a consistent cast in Grown Ups. Like, the scenes are disjointed. And I think the next level is Amy Schumer in the fact that there's a female voice that's doing things in an evolved way, and I don't know if Adam Sandler's films do that anymore. Like,
no, I don't think they've ever done that.
No, I mean, he's had respect for female characters in earlier films, whereas...
I would say, like, the last good... And I like the point that you make, because she's doing it... And I hate to like say, in a sophisticated way, but it is. No, it's clever. There is a level of sophistication. Like her kind of comedy pokes fun at Hollywood. Like that's what everybody really knows.
Without insulting your intelligence, which is what I think Adam Sandler movies have done.
She's not afraid to take a shot at stuff. Whereas Adam Sandler, he used to kind of take on topics like the person I really liked. I Now Pronounce You Chuck and Larry. And
Me too.
I really liked that movie, but that
not
being
his
said,
best, but it's good.
But like I see what you mean by that. Where there was like, hey, they were tackling something in their way,
right?
And now it's just like, hey, let's like that's my boy. Yeah, there was like I remember watching that with some other guys from my family, and I was like, they were laughing because like they're older, they're like well into probably entering their 40s, so they were all like,
their humor's
really
been
funny.
established,
yeah. And like for me, like that whole dynamic of like, oh man, this young kid sleeping with this young teacher, and this is the thing, like if you know me, I'm not the most politically correct person in the world. I like to poke fun at stuff, but like just because sometimes we're a little too uptight. But watching that movie, I was just like, this is something
that makes you uncomfortable.
It made me uncomfortable. I'm like, yo, man, like every guy has that fantasy of being with like the sexy teacher, but like actually putting it on screen and making fun of it, I'm like, you can't do that, man.
And
I really
that's
thought
what happened,
and
that's my boy because I never saw it.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened.
But that's the thing is like that humor doesn't work because on its face that's all it's saying and that's all it's doing. Billy Madison has that same joke. The joke is that he's like 30 and he's at school and he has the hots for his teacher.
Yeah.
That is more developed in one sentence than what apparently they did in That's My Boy. So he's like rehashing things that he already did really well.
Yeah.
And it's borderline offensive. So it's like he needs to start to tap into what audiences are expecting of him. And a lot of people are still buying his stuff, so it's kind of a complicated relationship. Yeah. He doesn't have to go completely away from what he does. He just needs to start to tailor it for what we're expecting overall.
And like the last bit that I'll say, because I want you to lay it on him, because you're more upset about it than I am.
Yeah.
Like the only thing I'll say is like to kind of literally quote like from his own film, from Billy Madison, is that was one of the dumbest, stupidest things I've ever heard. We are now dumber from listening to you, and that's what honestly anytime we will watch this movie, that's how we feel. And like basically, it's kind of You look back on it now, it's kind of creepy. It's just like, oh man,
it's a self-fulfilling
like,
prophecy.
Dude, you kind of fulfilled. Yeah, exactly. You literally fulfilled what you were going out for, and it totally backfired on you now.
I will, to sort of summarize what this conversation has been. We were coming from a good place because, like I said earlier, we both grew up watching his films,
and we still like those. Like, that's the thing. Billy Madison is fun. It's totally fun.
They hold up. I even as a kid defended Little Nicky. So just he needs like speaking to Adam directly.
Release the good.
I defend your work. I defend a lot of the work you've done that may have kind of perked some interest in what is he doing, kind of a thing. But I want you to look at your films and say, is it saying anything more? Am I saying anything more than just girls are icky? Me and my bros have everything covered. Like, we're gonna either save the world or we're gonna have a good family reunion. Or it's always like my band of brothers. We always have to band together and have a good time because this is getting in the way. Girls are getting in the way. There needs to be something more than just that. And your early films did have that. Get back to having heart with your humor. And you should be back on track. Click, strangely dark movie. Like, the ending, the last 30 minutes of that movie, I was, like, angry that my husband made me watch it because I didn't know I was going to be crying for half the movie. But maybe that tipped the scale a little toward too much of, like, the family role. But those are the risks I'd rather him take than just keep it surface level. It's safe to be surface level. Yeah. And he's so much better than that. And I want him to get back to the basics.
I agree. But no, that's all I have to say about it.
We just wanted to have a little Adam Sandler discussion.
Yeah.
Tell us what you think. If you guys are still madly in love with Adam Sandler's work.
Yeah, like if you
tell me why,
if you watch Pixels, let us know what you think.
Yeah, seriously.
Let's be real. At this point, only Adam Sandler fans are watching Adam Sandler movies,
and that's not enough anymore. And that's a really good point. So I think that about sums up our conversation with Adam Sandler. Just try a little harder in your next project, please. I'm looking forward to seeing what he does with Netflix.
Yes.
We'll see what happens. Netflix seems to have a pretty good gauge of what to expect from their audiences, what their audiences want to see. So I will not give up hope just yet.
Yes.
But he needed a talking to. So
awesome.
For Exit Only Theater, I'm JP Leigh.
I am Adrian. I was Adrian.
Yeah, he's going through an existential crisis.
Yeah, I'm Adrian.
We'll see you when the credits roll.
Oh, random noise.